Hello again. Happy and blessed Easter Saturday from Metro Manila, the Philippines, Southeastern Asia. I'm going to finish my series of videos on the Columbine High School massacre commemorating its 20th anniversary. And the first one has to do with fast facts. So what exactly happened during that time? On the late morning and early afternoon, mainly, of April the 20th, 1999, local time, near Littleton in Jefferson County, Denver region, Colorado, Western United States. The source is CNN, and as always, I declare make my famous disclaimer, no copyright infringement intended. Well, the facts we know: 12 students and one teacher were killed by students Dylan Klebold, 17, and Eric Harris, 18. Both were due to graduate from Columbine High School in June 1999. The pair made home videos before the attack, making references to what they were going to do and apologizing to their parents for it. When 12 of their 13 victims had already died, in all likelihood, they committed suicide with gunshot wounds to the head in the school's library, where they killed most of their victims. And this happened at approximately 12:08 p.m. local time. One of their victims, computer science and business teacher and sports coach David Sanders, who had heroically evacuated the cafeteria where the boys also placed homemade propane bombs with the hope that they would explode and cause much damage, and who had then directed the students' evacuation into locked classrooms, and who unfortunately on one of the hallways of the school had come face to face with the killers, had then tried to flee on foot, but had unfortunately been wounded by gunshots to his back, if I remember correctly. And unfortunately, because of the slow police response and their failure to locate the classroom where teacher Sanders was bleeding to death, he passed away that afternoon. SWAT teams did enter the school 47 minutes after the shooting started. However, 5 hours passed before the law enforcement officials declared that the school was under control. The Columbine shootings rank as one of the worst mass shootings in U.S. history, as well as one of the deadliest episodes of school violence. Since then, they have been surpassed at least by one school shooting, the Virginia Tech massacre in April 2007, almost exactly 8 years after these shootings to the day, perpetrated by a mentally sick Korean American student. So the victims who did not survive: Cassie Bernal, 17, Stephen Kernel, 14, Corrida Puter, 17, Kelly Fleming, 16, Matthew Kechter, 16, Daniel Mauser, 15, Daniel Rohrbo, 15, David Sanders, 47, Rachel Scott, 17, Isaiah Scholes, 18, John Tomlin, 16, Lauren Townsend, 18, and Kyle Velasquez, 16. In January 1998, Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris were arrested after stealing items, stereo equipment more specifically, from a van. They pled guilty and pretended to be sorry for their actions, and this deceptive ploy worked so well that they were not given a criminal record as long as they completed diversion courses, and at least Eric among them was given anger management courses as well. Their diversion officers were impressed by their intelligence although one did note that one of the boys had to remember that success comes through hard work. The other boy's diversion officer simply declared in his written statement or evaluation of the boy that he was an intelligent person who was likely to succeed in life. In March 1998, Randy and Judy Brown, parents of fellow Columbine High School student Brooks Brown, filed a report with the sheriff's office stating that Harris had threatened to kill Brooks and had written on the internet that he would like to kill people, as indeed he had, probably either in or around January 1998. He had also smashed the windshield of Brooks Brown's car with an ice block around the same time. On April the 20th, 1999, roughly 30 minutes after they had taped their last video of the so-called basement tapes, which were used as one of the pieces of evidence in the investigation into the killings afterwards. So at approximately 11:19 a.m., Klebold and Harris, carrying guns and bombs, opened fire inside Columbine High School. Just minutes earlier, they had arrived to the school's parking lot in two separate locations. Harris had run into Brooks Brown, who had criticized him for missing the psychology exam of that morning. Laughing mockingly in response, Harris had simply said, "Doesn't matter anymore." And then he had continued with these words which sounded strange to Brown. "Brooks, I like you now. Get out of here, go home." Shaking his head in confusion, Brown had indeed left the school's parking lot. When he was about 1 block away, he heard what sounded to him like a mixture of explosions and gunfire from the school. He then ran to the nearest phone booth and apparently called either 911 or one of the local police stations. So they ended up killing 13 victims, 12 of whom died already before 12 noon, and then one slowly bled to death, dying by about 3 p.m. that afternoon. David Sanders. They wounded, according to this source, 23, according to some other sources, 24 others before killing themselves. And then by April the 22nd, 1999, the parents or guardians of most of the victims, if not all, were notified. Although, according to one of the pages, internet websites dealing with this massacre, some of the slain or killed students' parents only found out that their children had been killed by reading one or more of the local newspapers. According to Misty Bernal, the mother of one of the victims, Cassie Bernal, by Tuesday evening, the police officers had already become initially sure about who exactly had been killed because they had accounted for everyone else. But because they did not have absolute confirmation, they waited until Thursday. For example, in the case of Cassie Bernal's parents, Brad and Misty, before finally notifying them. And then what happened afterwards? On November the 12th, 1999, Mark Maines was sentenced to 6 years in prison for selling a gun used in the murders to Harris and Klebold, both of whom were still minors. Harris turned 18 on April the 9th, 1999, or 11 days before the shootings. Klebold, who was several months, younger, was still 17 at the time of the shootings. Unwittingly, without any criminal intent. Robin Anderson, the girl who was his prom date just 3 days before the shootings, had bought a gun, and because she was already 18 years old, that was legal, and had given it apparently as a present to Dylan Klebold. In April 2001, close to 36 families of Columbine victims settled suits with the parents of the suspects and gun suppliers. The settlement totaled close to $2.5 million at that time, so slightly higher now because of the inflation. The Harrises and Klebold's homeowners insurance paid a large part, and the rest came from insurance company payments on behalf of the gun suppliers. The family of victim Isaiah Scholes, who was the only African-American student to be killed that day on April the 20th, 1999, did not accept the settlement. He was taunted with racial slurs by Eric Harris before he was shot dead. On August the 20th, 2002, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office settled with the daughter of teacher David Sanders for $1.5 million. In June 2003, Judge Robert Blackburn ordered the family of Isaiah Scholes to accept a $366,000 settlement in the lawsuit against the gunmen's families. On August the 12th, 2003, the families of victims Daniel Rohrbo, Kelly Fleming, Matthew Kechter, Lauren Townsend, and Kyle Velasquez settled a wrongful death lawsuit against parents Susan, or Sue, and Thomas Klebold, and Wayne and Catherine Harris, in which the victims' families claimed that the suspects' parents should have known what their sons were up to before the shootings. The terms of the settlement have not been released. On October the 22nd, 2003, home video of the two suspects was released by authorities. In the video made 6 weeks before the murders, the suspects were seen in a forested area shooting at bowling pins. On February the 26th, 2004, Colorado Attorney General Ken Salazar released an investigative report about the attack. Authorities also released thousands of pages of documents and physical evidence. On September the 21st, 2007, the Columbine Memorial, adjacent to Columbine High School, was dedicated and opened to the public. On February the 12th, 2016, in the first television interview, after that there have been several more, at least some of which are available on YouTube. Since her son Dylan killed 13 people together with his friend Eric Harris at Columbine High School, Susan, or Sue Klebold, the only one of the four parents to have granted any interviews to the media, and the only one to have published a book about the shootings, the events leading up to them, and the events of the shootings and the aftermath. The book is entitled A Mother's Reckoning. Susan Klebold spoke to a famous American television journalist, Diane Sawyer. She stated that if she had recognized that Dylan was experiencing some real mental distress, he would not have been there. He would have gotten help. I don't ever for a moment mean to imply that I'm not conscious of the fact that he was a killer, because I am.